My name is Carla Lopez. I'm 38 years old, and I never thought my love life would turn into something ripped straight out of a slow-burning drama. I've been dating William, 35, for 3 years. We'd been living together for 1, and for a while I thought he was the partner I could finally build stability with after my divorce. But there's one thing about me that comes before any romance: my daughter Chloe. She's 14, a bright, sharp-tongued teenager who lives with her dad most of the time. Every other weekend and half the holidays, though, she's with me. Those days mean everything to me. Last Tuesday evening, something inside our home shifted forever. We had just finished dinner. Chloe had gone back to her father's house 2 nights earlier. The table was cleared, and William and I had slipped into that quiet domestic rhythm, him washing dishes, me drying. I remember the smell of soap and the low hum of water against porcelain. Everything felt calm, until it didn't. William broke the silence, his voice unnervingly casual. "We need to talk about Chloe." The dish in my hands nearly slipped. A lump rose in my throat. What about her? He set down the sponge, leaned on the counter, like a man about to deliver a verdict. "I can't do this anymore, Carla." The every other weekend arrangement. The disruptions, always having to plan our lives around a teenager who clearly doesn't respect me. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. She's 14. All teenagers push boundaries. That's part of growing up. He shook his head, eyes hard. "No, don't make excuses for her. She deliberately undermines me. She ignores the rules when I set them, and you always take her side. I'm tired of competing for attention in my own relationship." The words "competing for attention" hit me like ice water. I put the dish towel down slowly. "William, she's my daughter. You're my partner. There is no competition." But he was already shaking his head, lips pressed into a thin line. "You need to choose. Either she stops coming here, or I'm done. Visit her at Daniel's place if you must, but I won't live in a house where I feel second place to a child." The room spun. For a moment I just stared at him, searching his face for some sign he was joking, some hint of the playful man I once loved. But his expression was stone, serious, final. My chest tightened. A choice. Between the man I thought I could love and the daughter I carried, raised, protected through every heartbreak, the answer was instant. "You're right," I whispered. "A choice has to be made." Relief flickered across his features, a small smile tugging at his mouth. "Thank you. I knew you'd see reason." I didn't let him finish. I walked past him into our bedroom, opened the closet, pulled out his suitcase. Behind me, his footsteps faltered. "Carla, what are you doing?" "Making the choice," I said, calmly pulling his shirts from the hangers, folding them with methodical precision. "You're absolutely right. Someone has to leave. But it won't be my daughter." Panic crackled in his voice. "Stop. That's not what I meant." I didn't look at him. My hands moved faster, stripping his side of the closet bare. "You issued an ultimatum, William. I'm responding to it." "Carla, please. I'm your partner." His tone turned desperate. "We can work through this. Don't throw us away over boundaries." I spun on him, clutching a bundle of his shirts. Boundaries. "You asked me to cut my child out of her own home. That's not a boundary. That's a betrayal." His mouth opened and closed like a man gasping for air. Finally, he muttered, "Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my problem," I said coldly, dumping the clothes into the suitcase. "You have family. Call them." For the next hour, I packed. He alternated between shouting, crying, and bargaining. He even tried to twist the narrative, said Chloe was manipulating me, poisoning me against him. I almost laughed at the absurdity. A 14-year-old child, a manipulator, no. The manipulator was standing right in front of me. By 10 o'clock, his bag sat by the door. He was on the couch, red-eyed, phone pressed to his ear. I heard his sister Meredith's voice faintly through the receiver. William's words were soaked in self-pity. "She's throwing me out, all over that bratty kid." That word bratty sent a hot rush of anger through me. I stormed over, snatched the phone. "Meredith," I said tightly, "come pick up your brother. He needs a place to stay." "Carla." "What's happening?" Meredith asked, alarmed. "Your brother demanded I choose between him and my daughter. I chose. Now come get him." I hung up before she could argue. William glared at me, cheeks wet. "You're making a huge mistake." "No," I said, voice firm, steady. The mistake was believing I could build a future with someone who'd asked me to abandon my child. This is the correction. This is the silence stretched, broken only by his ragged breathing. Meredith arrived 45 minutes later, face tight with judgment. She started lecturing me about marriage and compromise, but I cut her off. If someone asked you to choose between them and your kids, what would you do? Her mouth snapped shut. She had 3 children. She knew. They left with the suitcases. At the door, William paused, eyes burning with fury. You'll regret this, Carla. The only thing I regret, I said evenly, is not seeing who you really were sooner. I changed the locks the next morning. He was never on the lease anyway. It was my apartment long before him. And yet as I slid the new key onto my chain, a chill ran down my spine. Something told me William wasn't going to disappear quietly. Something told me this was only the beginning. The morning after I changed the locks, the apartment felt heavier, quieter. I should have felt relief, but instead there was a gnawing pit in my stomach. I kept telling myself I'd done the right thing, no, the only thing by protecting Chloe. But something about the way William's eyes burned as he walked out with Meredith told me this wasn't over. And I was right. 2 days later, the text began. First soft, apologetic. Carla, I was stressed. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I love Chloe, you know I do. I just wanted some balance. I stared at the screen, my fingers itching to respond, but each message felt hollow, rehearsed. I could still hear his voice spitting the words, choose between me and your daughter. That wasn't a slip of the tongue, that was who he was. I typed one line back. You asked me to cut my daughter out of my life. That's not something I can forgive. His reply came seconds later. You're being dramatic. Let's just talk, please. I put the phone down, shaking my head. Some doors once closed, stay closed. But William wasn't the kind of man who respected closed doors. Financial hooks. By the weekend, the apologies had shifted to accusations. I paid for half the living room furniture. I deserve my share back. The KitchenAid mixer, my mom gave that to us as a couple. I want it returned. I laughed bitterly when I read those. Half the living room furniture, he'd Venmo'd me $300 toward a $500 couch. As for the mixer, it had been my birthday gift from my sister long before he moved in. I texted back, you contributed $300. I'll Venmo you the money. End of discussion. Of course he wasn't satisfied. It's not about money. We built a life together. I muttered to myself, you tried to erase my daughter from that life. Conversation over. The audacity dragging. Daniel in. The real blow came on Sunday evening, when my phone rang and Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Hey, he said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of barely contained amusement. You'll never believe who just called me. A sinking feeling hit me. William. Bingo. He tried to convince me that Chloe would be better off not visiting you for a while. My blood ran cold. What? Daniel chuckled grimly. Yeah. Said the separation was traumatic, that Chloe needed stability, and that maybe she should stay with me full-time until you and William worked things out. Can you imagine he was practically suggesting I cut Chloe off from you? I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles whitened. Unbelievable. Oh, it gets better, Daniel continued. He offered to mediate. Said he could help us come to an arrangement where Chloe doesn't disrupt your new relationship. Carla, he actually said that. I pinched the bridge of my nose, fury pounding in my temples. Did you record it? No, but I put him on speaker. Daniel's voice warmed with amusement. Guess who was in the room, Chloe? My heart stopped. She heard him. Not only heard him, she grabbed the phone, told him, and I quote, my mom already chose. She chose me. Get over it. Then she hung up on him. A sharp laugh burst from me, equal parts pride and heartbreak. Oh God, my girl. Daniel softened. She's fine, more annoyed than hurt. But Carla... He crossed a line. He didn't need to tell me. I already knew. Carla's turmoil. That night I sat on my bed staring at Chloe's photo on my nightstand, the one where she's grinning, braces flashing, holding the kitten Daniel got her for her 12th birthday. I whispered, you'll always come first, Chloe. Always. But deep inside, a fear twisted its way into my chest. If William could try to turn Daniel against me, what else was he capable of? The air in my apartment felt thinner, like he was still there watching, waiting for another angle of attack. Meredith's involvement. Sure enough, Monday brought a new kind of pressure. Meredith called me. Carla, can we talk? I hesitated. About what? She sighed dramatically. William's devastated. He didn't mean what he said. You've been together for years. You can't just throw that away. Meredith. I cut in sharply. He asked me to ban my daughter from her own home. That's not something you misunderstand. That's crystal clear. Her voice hardened. You're making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Relationships require compromise. I nearly dropped the phone from laughing. Compromise. You think I should compromise on my child? Silence, then a clipped, You'll regret this. The line went dead. Foreshadowing. That night, I lay awake listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the pipes. But beneath the ordinary sounds, I swore I could hear something else, the echo of William's threat at the door. You'll regret this, Carla. The words replayed in my head until dawn. I knew him well enough to recognize when he was serious. This wasn't a breakup. This was the start of a war. The first call came on a Wednesday morning. I was on my way to work, sipping lukewarm coffee in the car when an unfamiliar number flashed across my phone. Against my better judgment, I answered. Carla, sweetheart. The syrupy voice oozed through the speaker. This is Patricia, William's mother. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Yes, I just wanted to reach out woman to woman, Patricia said smoothly, as though we were old friends. I understand you're upset, but throwing William out over one little disagreement, that's not how relationships work. My jaw clenched. He asked me to cut my daughter out of my life. That's not a little disagreement. Her voice sharpened beneath the honey. He didn't mean it like that. He simply wanted some adult time. When I married William's father, his children from his first marriage understood their place. They visited occasionally, but didn't intrude. Intrude. That single word pierced me. You mean exist, Patricia. Those children you're talking about, they don't speak to your husband anymore, do they? The silence on the line was deafening. I pressed harder. Maybe you should ask yourself why. Because if William thinks children are disposable, I can see where he learned it. Her facade cracked. How dare you? Click, I hung up. The nerve of her, as if Chloe, my own daughter, should know her place in my home. The social media war. By Friday, Patricia wasn't the only one circling. My cousin Claire texted me screenshots. You need to see this. William had taken to Facebook like a martyr stepping onto the cross. Post after post about narcissistic partners, about being forced to compete with the past, about step-parents being the real victims. One caption under a moody photo of himself read, "Sometimes love means being pushed aside for someone else's baggage." Baggage, that's what he called Chloe. I scrolled through the comments, mostly his friends telling him to stay strong and you deserve better. One wrote, "She needs to let go of her previous life if she wants to build one with you." And William, like a snake, replied, "Exactly. Thank you for understanding. It's so hard when the past keeps intruding." Claire's message followed right after Team Chloe all the way. He's making himself look like a fool. But I knew better. Words once planted online have a way of spreading like poison ivy. Even if his little fan club was small, the smear campaign had begun. Meredith doubles down. That weekend I ran into Meredith outside the grocery store. She was leaning against her car, arms crossed, waiting. "Carla," she said coolly, "we need to stop this nonsense." I bristled. "This isn't nonsense. Your brother tried to erase my daughter." Her eyes narrowed. "You've always been dramatic." William was frustrated. "You should have listened, not overreacted." I laughed bitterly. "So what?" I should have smiled and agreed. "Sure, William, my daughter will vanish so you feel more secure." Meredith's lips twisted. "You're turning the whole family against him. He's heartbroken, and you're broadcasting this circus." "Broadcasting," I snapped. "He's the one posting cryptic sob stories online." She had no response to that, just huffed, muttered, "You'll regret this," and stormed off. The words echoed again, always the same refrain. "You'll regret this." Carla's reflection. That night I sat with Chloe at the kitchen table, both of us eating takeout pizza. She was chattering about a school project, but I couldn't stop glancing at her, the way her ponytail swayed as she laughed, the brightness in her eyes. She was still a kid caught in the mess adults had made, and William had the audacity to label her as baggage. I forced a smile and reached over to squeeze her hand. "You know something, Chloe. You're the best part of my life." She grinned, cheeks flushed from soda. "I know, Mom." Her confidence steadied me. Whatever storm William was brewing, we'd weather it together. Foreshadowing. But even as I tucked Chloe into bed later, the unease lingered. Patricia's phone call, William's Facebook theatrics, Meredith lurking like a vulture, it was all building toward something. I caught myself staring out the dark window blinds drawn tight. Somewhere out there, William was plotting his next move, and I had the sinking feeling it was going to get worse before it got better. By the following week, William had shifted gears. The apologies had dried up, the Facebook posts simmered into bitterness, and what replaced them was something darker. It started Monday morning, 7 a.m. I was fastening my earrings before work when I heard scratching at the door, then pounding. "Carla, my key isn't working." I froze. He still had his old key, the one I'd changed the locks against. I slid the chain across and cracked the door an inch. There he stood, flanked by two men I'd never seen before, holding a box, like he planned to move back in. "You need to leave," I said flatly. "I'm just here to get my things." His tone was rehearsed, almost smug. "You already got them. Everything that was yours left with you." He stiffened. "The KitchenAid mixer, the photo albums, my wedding suit jacket. That mixer was mine years before you, and we were never married, William." One of the strangers puffed out his chest. "We're here to make sure William gets what's his safely." I blinked at them. "Who even are you?" "Friends," William said, as though that explained everything. I shut the door tighter. "Then your friends can drive you to the police station when I call this in as attempted breaking and entering." His face reddened. "You wouldn't dare." I pulled my phone from my pocket and started dialing. "Hi, yes, I'd like to report an attempted forced entry." The three of them scattered before I could finish. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the dent his shoe had left where he'd tried to wedge the door open. The false reports. Wednesday, my building manager knocked on my door. Mrs. Rodriguez, silver-haired, stern, but kind. "Carla," she said gently, "I got a complaint. Someone reported hearing a child crying for hours in here. They're worried about neglect." My blood boiled. "That's a lie." "I know," she said firmly. "I told them as much. But I have to follow up. Off the record, it was William. He asked for safety checks, claimed he was worried about your daughter's well-being." The gall of it. He couldn't cut Chloe out, so now he was trying to paint me as an unfit mother. "Thank you for telling me," I said, voice shaking. Mrs. Rodriguez leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Also, he's been loitering in the parking lot, taking photos of license plates. People are nervous." That night, I sat by the window blinds open just enough to peek out, and there it was, the shape of his car parked across the street. Just far enough to be legal, just close enough to remind me he was watching. Targeting Chloe directly. Friday evening, I picked up Chloe from Daniel's. She was unusually quiet on the drive back. Finally, she handed me her phone. "Mom," William texted me. The pit in my stomach dropped. The messages were long, syrupy, manipulative. "Chloe, I know things are confusing right now. None of this is your fault. Your mom is just upset. When she calms down, we can talk. I miss you, sweetie. Maybe we could get lunch, just us, without telling your mom." The last line made my vision blur with rage. "Did you reply?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah." Chloe's eyes flashed with defiance. "I told him to stop or I'd report him for harassment. Then I blocked him." Pride surged in me even as fear knotted in my chest. "Good girl," I whispered, kissing the top of her head. I called Daniel immediately. He was furious. "My lawyer will handle this. He's crossed so many lines, Carla." And for the first time I realized William wasn't just my problem anymore. He was dragging Chloe into his obsession, trying to wedge himself into the cracks of our family. The grocery store confrontation. The final straw came Saturday morning. Chloe and I were pushing our cart down the cereal aisle when I heard the unmistakable sound of forced surprise. "Carla, what a coincidence." I turned, and there he was, William with Meredith at his side, both of them smiling like they'd stumbled across us by chance. But we weren't anywhere near Meredith's neighborhood. This store was 15 minutes away from hers. The odds of it being a coincidence were laughable. William's eyes slid past me, landing on Chloe. "Hi, sweetie. You look so grown up." Chloe froze, then squared her shoulders. Her voice was steady, sharp. "Please leave us alone." Chloe, William said softly, as if he were the injured party. "I know you're hurt, but—" She cut him off. "You tried to make my mom get rid of me. The only one hurt here is you because it didn't work." Meredith's voice cracked through the tension. "Don't be rude to adults, young lady." I stepped between them, fury blazing. "Don't talk to my daughter, either of you." William raised his chin. "It's a public place. I can talk to whoever I want. And if you make a scene, I'll call security." Chloe gripped my hand tightly. We left the aisle, our cart abandoned. But as we passed, I noticed Meredith raising her phone, snapping photos of us. Hours later, I found out why. William had posted again photos of me, shielding Chloe, captioned, "Some people use their children as weapons. All I wanted was closure." The comments, though, didn't go his way this time. "Wait, you told her to choose between you and her kid. Why are you stalking them in grocery stores? This is creepy, William." By evening, the post was gone. Foreshadowing. But the damage wasn't undone. The stalking, the manipulation, the lies, it was escalating. As I tucked Chloe in that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were living under siege. William wasn't just a bitter ex. He was a storm building on the horizon. And I knew the thunder hadn't even started yet. The lawsuit papers landed on my doorstep like a poisoned gift. Unlawful eviction, emotional distress, $30,000 in damages. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the stamped envelope while Chloe did her homework across from me. 30,000. As if he could erase what he'd done and turn me into the villain with the stroke of a lawyer's pen. When I called my attorney David, he chuckled darkly. He doesn't have a case, Carla. He was never on the lease, never got mail there, and you didn't physically remove him. He left with his sister. If anything, we should counter for harassment. I thought of the text to Chloe, the fake neglect reports, the stalking in the parking lot. My hands trembled. Do it, counter Sue. David's tone sharpened. This won't end nicely for him. The workplace attack. 2 days later, my boss called me into her office. My stomach dropped the second I saw her face. Carla, we received a complaint. Someone claimed you're unstable, that your domestic issues make you a risk to the company. I could barely breathe. What, who? They didn't sign it, but it contained details only someone close to you would know. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. It traced the email. It came from a coffee shop downtown. Security cameras put Meredith there at the exact time it was sent. I sagged with relief, though fury bubbled underneath. So it's harassment. Exactly. HR has documented everything. If they contact us again, our legal department will intervene. She gave me a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Carla. We're on your side. Still walking back to my desk, I felt the walls closing in. He wasn't just coming after my home. He was clawing at my livelihood. The final break-in. Thursday evening, I returned from work to find the apartment door slightly ajar. My pulse spiked. Inside, standing bold as brass, were William, Patricia, and a man I didn't recognize. How did you... Then I remembered. The fake rock under the porch. The spare key I'd forgotten. William's smile was triumphant. You thought you could lock me out, but you can't erase me from this home. Patricia folded her arms, her voice syrupy sweet. Carla, darling, this has gone too far. We've brought Pastor Raymond to mediate an intervention. An intervention. My laugh came out sharp, jagged. This is breaking and entering. The pastor, calm and self-important, stepped forward. We just want you to see reason. Marriage is sacred. Family requires sacrifice. William deserves a chance to rebuild. Family, I spat. He tried to make me throw my child away. That is not family. William's face twisted. You're destroying us, Carla. We can fix this if you just stop being so stubborn. You have 10 seconds to leave before I call the police. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the keypad. Patricia shrieked. You're putting a child before your vows. 5 seconds. William's bravado cracked. Carla, please, I love you. We can go to counseling. Pastor Raymond. 2 seconds. I dialed. Hello, yes. I have 3 trespassers in my home. That got them moving, but not fast enough. The cops arrived within minutes, catching them mid-escape. I showed the officers my lease, the changed locks, and finally William's ID still registered at Meredith's address. He'd never even updated it. The officers cuffed all 3 for trespassing. The pregnancy bombshell. As they were being led out, William twisted against the officer's grip and shouted, You can't do this. I'm going to be a father. Everything stopped. The officers glanced at me. Chloe, who had stepped into the hallway, froze mid-step. My chest went ice cold, then hot with fury. Really, I said, voice shaking but loud. That's impossible. I had surgery years ago, and you and I haven't been intimate in months. A female officer snorted. Nice try, buddy. William's face went pale. I meant she was pregnant, but she miscarried from all the stress. Which is it, I demanded. Pregnant or miscarried? You can't even keep your lies straight. Patricia started screaming about suing everyone. The pastor looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The officers shoved them toward the patrol car. Aftermath. The next morning, David filed for a restraining order. It was granted immediately pending a hearing. And then came the delicious twist William's own lawyer dropped him. Apparently breaking into my apartment while simultaneously suing me for eviction was enough to obliterate any credibility he had left. You can't claim you were unlawfully evicted if you're busy committing trespassing. The criminal charges would probably get pled down to misdemeanors, but they'd stick to his record. Foreshadowing. That evening, Chloe curled up beside me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. Mom, she whispered. He's not going to stop, is he? I kissed her hair. He can't hurt us anymore. Not legally, not personally. He tried, and he failed. Still, as I watched the shadows flicker against the blinds, I wondered, was this truly the end of William's storm, or just another pause before the final wave? The silence in my apartment felt different after the arrests. Not heavy, not suffocating, but clean. For the first time in weeks, I could walk from room to room without the sense of being watched, without wondering if William's shadow lurked around the corner. The restraining order was granted without argument. The judge looked over the evidence, the text to Chloe, the false reports to building management, the attempted break-in, the grocery store confrontation, even the ridiculous pregnancy claim, and barely concealed her disgust. David, my attorney, leaned over and whispered, "He's done. His own lawyer dropped him. He's going to flail for a while, but nothing he does will stick." And flail he did. William took to social media again, posting about being a survivor, a victim of parental alienation, trying to rally sympathy. But the tide had turned. The same friends who once commented, "Stay strong," now asked sharper questions. Why are there police reports against you? Why are you texting a child behind her mother's back? This isn't healthy, William. Most of those posts vanished within hours, deleted as quickly as they appeared. Patricia and Meredith's shame. Patricia called once raging, claiming I'd ruined her son's life. But when I reminded her that her fingerprints were on the trespassing report too, she went quiet. Meredith, who had once sneered that I'd regret everything, sent a text weeks later, "William is staying with Mom now. He's broken. Hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I set the phone down and didn't respond. Because yes, I was happy. Not about his downfall, but about my freedom. About Chloe's safety. About the quiet nights where I no longer jumped at shadows. Mother and daughter. One Saturday morning, Chloe padded into the kitchen, her hair sticking up from sleep. I was flipping pancakes, her favorite, when she wrapped her arms around my waist. "You chose me," she murmured. I froze spatula midair and blinked back the sting in my eyes. There was never a choice to make, baby girl. You're my daughter. You always come first. She grinned, sliding into a chair. "Mom, you make the best pancakes," even if William said they were too sugary. I laughed, really laughed, the kind that shook the tension from my shoulders. Then I'll add extra syrup just to spite him. The camping trip. Spring break rolled around, and instead of lawyers, police calls, and restraining orders, Chloe and I packed a tent, sleeping bags, and marshmallows. Just us two, under a wide sky, the crackle of a campfire replacing the constant buzz of fear. One night, as the firelight flickered against her face, she said softly, "Mom, you're stronger than I thought." I poked at the flames with a stick, smiling faintly. "So are you. You faced him down when most adults would have crumbled." She leaned against me. "We're a team, right?" "Always," I whispered, kissing the top of her head. "Always a team." Carla's reflection. In the stillness of those woods, with Chloe's steady breathing beside me, I realized something. William had tried to define my life through ultimatums, manipulation, and fear. But in the end, he revealed himself for what he truly was, disposable. When someone asks you to choose between them and your child, the answer is already made. They've told you they're not worth keeping. The storm was over. The air was clear. And in its place was something William could never take from me, the simple, unshakable bond between a mother and her daughter. And as I flipped pancakes the next morning, watching Chloe drizzle them with too much syrup,